What's up guys, welcome back to another video, hope you're doing well today and welcome to Quarry Cross or Quarry X, but I believe it's just pronounced Cross. This is a new compound created by Pastico in MX Bikes and it features two tracks. We have one over here which is kind of embedded into the trees. It's got a lot of elevation by the looks of it. I don't know where these trees have come from. They're the first time I think I've seen them in game before, but they're very, very pretty, like look very realistic. And then over on the other side of the map over here, we've got what he calls the more like meadow style track with some more technical jumps. So this one's meant to be a lot more kind of fun, flowy, and this one's I think is a little bit more on the difficult side. Also, I do want to put a little disclaimer out there. As we're going to be riding around, you're going to be hearing two noises. The first one is going to be the sound of like birds, like I guess singing, as that's just like a background ambience noise. And the second one, it might sound like a little bit of like a white noise, or I guess like when you turn your TV back in the day when it just went all like grey and black and white and it made a weird staticky sound. That's because we have a waterfall in this place for some reason. It's not on live right now, but if I go back in time and press play, you can see, there we go, now you can hear it, it's all moving. So if you wonder what this noise is right here, whilst I'm riding around, that is the culprit. And again, look at very, very pretty. A lot of time and effort I think has gone in just to making this one waterfall, and I do certainly appreciate it all. So without further ado, you can see me doing my little practice lap here to make sure all's good. Let's get into it. If you've been putting off buying that new MX gear or you're just looking for some new daily MX related clothing, then head on over to fxrracing.com. Code MXPR_Lins15 at checkout will give you 15% off all motocross and lifestyle products. This code is applicable to the European, Swedish and Norwegian websites, not Canada or the USA. And whilst I've got your attention, you may as well subscribe to the channel. It's just one click of a button and it puts a big old smile on my face. Hope you enjoy the rest of the video. Now we are on the TM again. The reason for that is that we have basically like 2 days left until the first qualifier of LAN starts. Over the course of today, I think I've played for about an hour on and off, playing the track, the GP of Italy, which is Maggiora, and I don't know where I stand, to be honest with it. Some laps I feel really nice and smooth on the old TM, and then other laps I'll go into some corners and I feel like the bike just won't turn, even if I'm leant over quite far. And I do go back into replay to check. Even if I'm leant over quite far, I feel like the bike carries on going in a straight line, which is very, very odd. So something that I'm still trying to get in my head around a little bit. I did mess around with a few things that you guys suggested after yesterday's video. First one being trying to lean forwards a bit more in some corners. I found that it works quite good in terms of the faster corners, but low speed it really doesn't do much for me at all anyway. And the issue that I have is playing in dynamic. If I lean forwards in the corner, you see like it's all like right up in my face, and I don't like that. I like seeing a bit more of the bike, so I'm going to just try and carry on persevering with how I usually play right now, which is kind of centre of the bike, and if it is really struggling, I'll kind of explore that further. I messed around with a bunch of different tyre settings today, and the ones I feel most comfortable on is the mid-softs 80 on the front and the 120 on the rear, so kind of the standard. Oh my goodness. And the other thing that I've been struggling with is my bike will randomly wash out on me sometimes when I'm landing. Now, granted, when I'm landing, sometimes it's slightly off-centre, but to the point where I feel like I should definitely be able to land it, even though I'm not 100% directly on top of the bike. Like it'll just fall out from underneath me. So there's a lot of old muscle memory that I'm trying to destroy, trying to get rid of. I messed around with my direct lean a little bit as well, and in some corners it felt good, in others not so good, so I put it back to my standard, and I'm just going to try and, I guess, adapt my riding itself rather than changing the game around it, and we'll get there eventually. I'm no I'm not going to hide it from you guys. I think you're all aware that I really dislike this TM as a bike as a whole. But the way I look at it is everybody's in the same boat. Like, everyone has to ride it. There's no, I guess, there's no meta as such. I don't think there's any like sneaky settings. I think the bike is just the bike at the end of the day, and you have to ride it to the best of your ability. So I'm trying to persevere and trying to do as well as I can with it. And I think on the qualifying days, I'm not going to be looking to go and, you know, like podium or try and win. I'm simply going to be just trying to qualify. So that is just a top 10. And I think if I just ride around, like, I'm guessing it's a qualifying race. You know, we do the usual top 40 go through to practice, and then you do a race amongst everyone. If I'm guessing that is how it's going to go. I don't know ahead of time. I have registered for it. It'd probably help if I looked at these things, wouldn't it? But I'm just going to try and ride around, crash as few times as possible, and hopefully that should get me inside of the top 10. I've seen a few people that like in the comments, and a few people in various discords as well, who I think aren't the most experienced who aren't usually at the top of the pack in terms of normal aerial stuff, but because of the age limitation, it's kind of opened the door for them to try. So it's really cool to see some new faces, and unfortunately I do feel bad for kind of the few, I guess, high tier people that are just under that 18-year-old threshold. However, that's not something that has just come out of the blue that they've decided because they don't like kids. It's purely for the political/legal side of things in Italy. They're very, very strict when it comes to their competition and their ruling and their prize giveaways, etc. So all is being done to the book. And there's a few people asked the question of why are we riding the TM / is riding the OEM bikes going to cause any issues with like real life, I guess, copyright / likeness, etc. So if some of you didn't know, a bunch of different sponsors of this LAN event are real bike brands like Honda is and KTM, and they didn't want their kind of likeness or their bike, etc., being ridden for the event, which is why we've ended up on the TM, because TM aren't sponsoring it, at least to the best of my knowledge, and so it's absolutely fine, it's all clear. So that is the reason for the TM. It's not by choice. I think it's just a good coincidence that it's an Italian bike brand that we're riding in Italy, and I don't think it's anyone's favourite bike unless you're a bit of a weirdo and you've been hiding under a rock and not trying any of the other bikes out. Even amongst the OEMs, I don't think it's a very good one in general. Weird stuff like that. Just transferring weight from one side to the other is very, very funky for me right now, very sketchy. But again, it's just practice makes perfect. I've got almost 2,700 hours of a certain muscle memory in this game, so trying to I guess remove all that is a lot easier said than done, but we'll hopefully get there by the time Monday comes around. So far so good. This track's actually really nice, but I keep jumping off the track everywhere. I feel like majority of jumps here I've jumped off the side. I think it's going to take quite a handful of laps to work out where exactly I'm going, because they're all blind jumps as well, and I don't know how far they are, I don't know what angle they turn at. Some of them look quite similar, so that turning one there I thought was actually this turning one at the top of this hill, which it just isn't. And when I was flying around before we got into it, this track looks a lot bigger than it actually is. The lap times are under a minute and a half, so you can kind of rack off some pretty quick laps, and that's with me crashing at the same time and jumping off the track. So I reckon a fast lap time, you might even be looking around the 1 minute 10 area. Right, so I've got to jump to the right here. Can I make this inside? No, I'm not even going to try it. Not going to try it at all. So then we're just going to go double here, double again to the left to then open up the corner. Hug the inside, because there's no real need. Be very gentle, transitioning the way over to the left. Check up a little bit on this one, but not too much, or I'll case it for the 17th time in a row again. And then, God, where are we going here? Just send this. Yes, we send this. This is a triple. I keep checking up and casing this, so we'll send this a bit deeper. Up and over that, no worries. And then this one, I think, goes round to the right a little bit. It does. Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh, God. Survive. Thank you. And round to the right, we've got... Oh, God, this goes to the left a bit, doesn't it? Yes, slightly left down the hill. And then turning to the right, jump number 1, which you have to jump a little bit further. Jumping up into the uphill rollers. Right, shall I try and double them? Yeah, double them. They're quite easy there. I will say, the OEM bikes feel very, very fast in a straight line. I think they might be faster than any other bikes that we've had so far. And if I was to compare them to factory, I think they're faster in a straight line than the factory bikes are. I think it's just the factory bikes have better acceleration than the OEMs do. So they've got different power in different places. So there you go. There was actually a kind of clean lap, I guess. And just if I just sit here for a second and we just take it all in. It looks very, very nice. It's very pretty. And there's a really sad thing that I'll quickly cut to now that I thought was very impressive when I was doing my inspection before I pressed the record button. Right, so you might be wondering what I'm on about. And this texture is what I'm on about. So obviously it's just a rock texture. It's meant to be like the base of the river and line the sides a bit. However, you try and find where the texture stops and starts. Because I don't think you can. I can't find a seam anywhere in this to find like recurring textures, and I've been staring at it for like a good 30 seconds or so, unless he's somehow managed to make it one massive one in one document, or he's managed to get one of the, I guess they're called like repeating ones. I think that's what they're called. It looks very, very good, and yeah, I can't find like a line or an area where it splits. Maybe is that it, like kind of diagonally? Does that happen more than once? Does that repeat? Does that recur? Well, I don't know. Even if I like zoom right in, I can't find anyone. It's very, very high detailed. And I guess that the whole track itself looks very pretty. So we've done track number 1. We've admired the scenery as well. Again, that's just very beautiful. If we do like a slow panning shot, and this is, I've not edited anything this time in my editing software. The colours that you're seeing in the video are the colours on the track, and I think they're very bright, very vibrant, and very pretty overall. So we're going to go and do this meadow track now, where apparently the jumps are a little bit more technical. Yeah, look how it's just nice and pretty. Just very, very pleasing on the eyes. I'm very, very jealous of this wooden fence here, because it was an asset that I was looking for when I was creating my track, and I couldn't find one. I'm not sure. I mean, it doesn't look like it's a... I mean, part of it's 3D and then part of it's 2D. I'm guessing that's to save on performance. But it looks very good, and it's exactly the kind of thing that I was looking for that I couldn't find for my track, so I'm very jealous. I'm not sure if he's made that from scratch, or if it's something that he's found online, like for free, or if he's bought it online. Either way, looks great. What doesn't look great is me massively overjumping the first 2 jumps on the track. So already, this one seems to be a track that might favour the slightly smaller bikes. So there's a few back and forths. We've got some actual rough going into the corners this time. I check up a bit over the finish. Oh, see, the one time I check up, it's jump I hit a little bit harder. And then go up to the left around here. Little yah yeet up and over. That's actually quite satisfying. Imagine you can pull some very nice scrubs there. Check up a little bit on this one. We case the life out of it, but thankfully the suspension on these new OEMs is a little bit better when it comes to overjumping and trying to survive cases and overjumps in general. Get on the brakes to the inside here. I think I might need to play some tracks that are slightly slower and more technical in speed overall, because so far the only track I've really grinded on this bike is that Maggiora track, which we're doing for round 1 of the qualifiers, and it's quite fast. There's 1 or 2 like tight, oh my god, quite tight 180 corners, but for the most part it's quite wide open. And I know the bike handles completely differently at slow speeds than it does at high speeds, and I think you have to kind of learn slower and then hopefully get faster as you progress. So tracks like this, they have their place. I downside it this time. We've gone a little bit long again. I like that even if I manage to blow the inside rut, there seems to be like exactly like that. There seems to be a second one or a third one in most corners for me to fall into after that. And yeah, going over inside ruts right now seems to be my favourite thing to do on these. Again, I'm just really struggling getting the bike settled in the turns. In the super like deep ruts, it seems hooking quite well, but in the flatter corners or corners with very minimal depth in the ruts or flat corners in general, it seems to just want to go in a straight line, and that's what I'm struggling with. And I've tried various swing arm lengths and fork heights, and I even went to the extent of doing 0 swing arm length and 20 fork height to make it turn as tight as it possibly can do, and it just made it sketchy everywhere, and it still really didn't even end up turning that tight overall. So massive skill issues on my behalf, and I feel like that's what this video has become, is me complaining about my skill issues. I think to address yesterday's video as well, some people seem to get the wrong idea of what I was trying to get across. Seems like I'm just saying, oh, you're ungrateful for the prizes. And I was like, that's not the case at all. I was saying the prizes are very, very good, considering that we're literally just sitting here playing MX bikes and getting rewarded with all-inclusive paid tickets and hotels to go and watch some sporting events. All I'm saying is that it's a bit odd that it's MotoGP related, when majority of people competing in an MX bikes event would be interested in MXGP over MotoGP. That's all I'm saying. So yeah, I didn't mean for it to come across as negative as it may have done, unless people just read into it so far. But yeah, very appreciative for all the time and effort, and I guess the prizes that have been put up. And if you convert them into a cash value, it's actually quite crazy. Just me, like my individual opinion, which nobody else needs to have, because I am me and you are you, and you can think for yourselves, is I am not the biggest of MotoGP fans. Road bikes is okay. I used to watch a decent amount of GP back in the day, but in recent years, not so much. So I would just prefer one of those 9th and 10th place positions for some MXGP, which I'm much more interested in overall. That is all I was trying to say. Please don't take it out of context. So, I am going to say, whilst this track is very visually appealing on the eye, with all of the flowers and the grass dotted around and the birds singing in the background, I definitely think the 450 is way too overkill for it. It is not needed at all. I think this could even be one of them special 125 tracks, in all honesty. But I think even a 250 might be a little bit too much. But for a little, I guess, practice track, I guess it gives me like beginnerish kind of vibes. You know, the jumps aren't
too difficult in terms of how you have to hit them. It's just trying to get your timing correct, and they're actually built in a good way where a lot of your whips work really, really nicely, and you can bring them back around in time. So it could be one of them tracks for the slightly newer players to, I guess, hone their skills on overall. And then the big boy that we done originally is slightly more fast-paced. Might be a little bit more difficult to run some fast, consistent laps, and that is the 3rd or 4th lap in a row that I've completely overjumped that jump. I feel like the track is very inside dependent, actually, now I think about it. I know there's multiple ruts in each corner, but just due to the layout of it, it does kind of lead you to the inside in majority of places. Not a negative thing by any means, but I feel like without even meaning to, I'm taking the same line each lap because that's just where my bike takes me. I know that my lines aren't really choices at the moment because of this horrible machine. And to be fair, I wish that this bike felt better to me. Again, some people might absolutely love this bike, but the personal opinion, being my opinion, and my opinion only, is I'm just not gelling with it. It just feels a little bit awkward, feels a little bit stiff sometimes, but then when you try and counteract that with maybe a slightly softer suspension, I then feel like it gets a little bit too springy, and you kind of jump up in the air on all the bumps rather than going forwards through them. So hard to, I guess, strike the right balance overall. But I was quite shocked to see this track released today. I didn't expect there to be any tracks, and in fact, since I recorded yesterday's LAN video, there's been 5 different tracks released in one, I guess, day and a bit for me, which is quite wild. There's, I think, 3 on MXB Mods, and then there's 2 on the store, this being one of them. So I've got a couple of tracks to cover over the next few days, so I hope you all enjoy that and I'll look forwards to it. 1 or 2 of them will obviously still be on the TM, just because I need to practice on it and I don't want to ruin any slight muscle memory I'm gaining whilst practicing on this bike. But then, yeah, once that first round is all done and dusted, we'll move back to some different bikes, probably factory, if I'm honest. It just makes life so much easier for me. And yeah, if you have enjoyed this video, then please do let me know. A like is always appreciated, and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Have a lovely rest of the day, wherever you're up to, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.